Hi, and welcome to our online discussions. Before watching the video, I only have two simple requests for you. First is to get a paper or a notebook and jot down all the important ideas that you need to know. Second is to focus. Happy learning! Hello everyone! Welcome to the discussion of week 5. So medyo maingay yung background ko ngayon. Hopefully rinig nyo pa rin kasi I have my microphone naman. So there, let's start our discussion. Okay, so week 5 is about Rizal's change in perspective on the Spanish rule. So the things we have to discuss for now, indolence and the Spanish Colonial Rule, Rizal's abandonment of assimilation, and the Filibusterismo. So let's now proceed to the indolence and the Spanish Colonial Rule. So shortly after Rizal published his first novel, the Noli Me Tangere, he became an active contributor to the bi-weekly newspaper La Solidaridad. So two of his essays published on the newspaper were Sobre la Indolencia de los Filipinos in 1890 and Los Agricultores Filipinos in 1889. So in Sobre la Indolencia de los Filipinos, or The Indolence of the Filipinos, Rizal acknowledged Gregorio Santiago's El Progreso de Filipinas and recognized the evident indolence of the Filipinos. So ito yung works ni Santiago na ninurture ni Rizal. However, he believed that such indolence was not inherent but was caused by the climate of the Philippines, both in a physical sense or as a tropical country, mainit sa Pilipinas, and in a socio-political sense or in relation to the social disorders rooted in the Spanish rule. So, here in this article, sinabi ni Rizal na hindi tamad ang mga Pilipino. Naging tamad lang sila dahil sa mga dahilan na ito. Okay? So he compared it to an illness by saying that the indolence of the Filipinos must be properly diagnosed before a prescription could be made. So sabi ni Rizal, kailangan meron munang patunay or doctor's prescription kumbaga bago mo sabihin na tamad ang mga Pilipino. Specifically, there were the economic policies implemented by the Spaniards that required Filipinos to pay unreasonable taxes or tributo and render polo y servicio that mandated forced labor on Filipino males 16 to 60 years old for a 40-day period. So sabi ni Jose Rizal, sino ba naman ang sisipaging magtrabaho kung wala kang sweldo, di ba? So yung ibang tao nga may sweldo na pero tamad pa rin magtrabaho. Pero ito, dun sa polo y serbisyo, nire-require ang mga lalaki particularly na magtrabaho ng walang kabayaran. So yun yung ginagawa nila sa mga Pilipino. Kaya ang only choice ng mga Pilipino, kaya ang tendency ng mga Pilipino ay tamarin magtrabaho kasi nga walang kahit ano silang nakukuhang kapalit. And also, ang kadahilanan din nito ay ang tributo. Wala nang pasahod sa kanila habang nagtatrabaho sila sa polo y serbisyo, nagpapataw pa ng pangkalahatang buwis ang mga Espanyol. Ito ay nagsimula pa noong sistemang enkomienda. Kaya, yun, medyo mahirap para sa mga Pilipino noon ang magtrabaho at mabuhay sa ilalim ng kamay ng mga Espanyol. In the essay, Rizal linked two factors to the indolence of the Filipinos. First was the limited training and education provided to the Filipinos for the Spanish government feared possible insubordination and retaliation. So sabi ni Rizal, ang una ay ang kadamutan ng mga Espanyol na bigyan ng karampatang edukasyon ang mga Pilipino. Ito ay dahil na rin sa takot ng mga Espanyol na una ay kapag nagkaroon ng edukasyon ng mga Pilipino, hindi na sila sumunod sa gusto ng mga praile. At ang pangalawa, natatakot ang mga praile na balikan sila ng mga Pilipino kapag marurunong na or matatalino na ang mga ito. Second was the lack of national sentiments of unity among Filipinos caused by the stigma that Filipino culture was inferior to foreign culture which compelled humble submission. So, ang una nga iyon, walang training at edukasyon ng mga Pilipino. Ang pangalawa naman ay mababa ang self-esteem ng mga Pilipino ng panahon na yun kasi may stigma sila na inferior tayong mga Pilipino, na wala tayong magagawa kasi hindi tayo united. Wala tayong magagawa kasi malakas ang Espanya at under lang nila tayo. Yun ang mindset ng mga Pilipino noon, kaya hindi sila makalaban or kaya hindi sila kumikilos para sa sarili nila. So given these factors, Rizal concluded that the solution to Filipino indolence was education and liberty from oppression. So kahit ganun yung mga nakikita ni Rizal na dahilan, si Rizal ay isang staunch advocate pa rin ng education. Para sa kanya, matatapos lahat ng paghihirap, matatapos lahat ng problema kapag merong edukasyon ng isang tao. Meanwhile, in the essay Los Agricultores Filipinos, so they're the one that you can see in the picture, or the Filipino Farmers in English, was published in March 25, 1809. In this essay, Rizal recommended to the Minister of Colonies to consult Filipino tilers who would be affected by any agrarian problem and to assist them. So Rizal pointed out that calamities were not solely to blame for poor harvest of Filipino farmers, but rather the abusive colonial policies such as polo y servicio that minimized the productivity of farmers. Rizal also brought to attention the problem of banditry and thievery in rural farms. So sabi doon ni Rizal, may hindrances kung bakit walang improvement ang Filipino farmers or ang buhay ng mga magsasaka at ang agrikultura ng Pilipinas. Una, sabi ni Rizal ay yan, dahil sa natural calamities, mga baha, mga sunog, mga locust, no. So yun yung sinasabi ng national disaster. Also, kasama din doon yung bad harvest na hindi palagi maayos yung yung harvest nila. Ang sabi ni Rizal, hindi lang yun yung dahilan, kundi ang petty tyrants and robbers din. So, nung panahon na yun, hindi lang yun yung pinoproblema ng farmers. Hindi lang yung natural disaster na yun, kundi ang kanila ding sitwasyon. Kasi usong-uso ng panahon na yun, ang banditry or yung pagnanakaw ng mga pag-aari ng mga farmers, at saka yung petty thievery or yung criminal act ng pagkamkam ng pag-aari ng isang farmer nang walang paalam. So, yun din yung isang problema nila. So, in Los Agricultores Filipinos, Rizal commended the intention of the Spanish colonizers to develop agriculture in the Philippines as a means to social and economic advancement. So, when he was exiled in Dapitan, Rizal dedicated much of his time tending the farm he bought in Talisay. In his farm, he used modern agricultural methods he observed in his travels in Europe. So, di ba, before naman si Rizal ma-exile sa Dapitan, marami siyang lugar na napuntahan at isa nga doon yung Europe. Si Rizal ay natural na curious sa bagay-bagay kung ano yung mga nakita niyang machine na pwedeng gamitin sa agriculture doon sa Europe ay inadapt niya para magamit niya sa Dapitan. Kasi napakarami ni Rizal, may isang farm si Rizal doon na kung saan siya ang nagsimula ng kung saan napakinabangan niya. Nagtanim siya, nagawa siya ng dam, kung di ako nagkakamali. Maraming ginawa si Rizal sa Dapitan na talaga namang makikita mo na experience din siya sa mga ganong bagay. In addition to this, dahil hindi maprotektahan ng mga colonial guards ang farms ng mga Filipino farmers noon, sinabihan din sila ni Rizal na maging equipped ng baril with guns to defend themselves against the lawless element. So thus Rizal demanded from the Ministry of Colonies urgent solutions to this problem. So yun lang ang nakikita ni Rizal na solusyon sa mga magnanakaw or kumakamkam ng lupain or ng kung anumang pag-aari ng farmers noon, ang magkaroon ng sariling armas para maipagtanggol ang sarili at ang kanilang mga pag-aari. So yeah, so that's for section 1. So we are now going to proceed to the section 2, or Rizal's abandonment of assimilation. So Filipinos in Spain were also losing motivation. Others opted to possibly participate in Filipino initiatives, while others decided to find their own ways to take part in more active campaigns against Spain. So this had been the scenario among the Filipino nationalists in Spain. Personal rivalries among Filipinos also arose and became a hindrance to the formation of concrete plans and actions. So, nagkaroon ng hidwaan itong si Jaina at si Jose Rizal dahil sa pagkakaroon nila ng magkaibang paniniwala So si Haina, naniniwala siya na doon sila dapat lumaban sa ibang bansa. Kasi nga, feeling niya mas safe sila doon, mas makakalaban sila ng malayo sa Pilipinas. Pero si Rizal, naniniwala siya na hindi sila dapat lumaban or hindi doon ang battlefield sa Spain, kundi sa Pilipinas. Naniniwala si Rizal na kailangan nilang bumalik sa Pilipinas para doon makipaglaban at baka sakaling dun sila mas papakinggan kasi nandun yung mga kaaway nila. So ang kay Haina naman at kay Del Pilar, niisip nila na baka mas magiging kakampi nila yung mga taga-Espanya na nandoon kasi mas naiintindihan sila ng mga kasamahan nila doon na Espanyol. So magkaiba sila ng paniniwala at may mga taong kumampi kay Haina at Del Pilar at may mga taong kumampi kay Rizal. So nahati ang La Solidaridad. So, this left Marcelo del Pilar to manage the newspaper single-handedly. In addition, the desire of other Filipino nationalists to establish a new organization to counter the Spanish rule resulted in setbacks on the effort initiated by La Solidaridad. So, sa tingin ng iba, naging useless yung kanilang effort doon kasi nga, yung kanilang goal ay nagkaroon ng lamat dahil sa mga personal na kagustuhan ng bawat isa. So one of the predominant reforms lobbied by Filipino was representation in the Spanish Cortes. This move would have given Filipinos a voice in the Spanish government through a limited capacity. Such representation was previously granted to the Filipinos but was taken back. So, nagkaroon ng chance na magkaroon ng representation pero binawi ulit. So, the lack of concrete commitment on the part of the Spanish government only made the representation of Filipinos barely enough to materialize. So, hindi rin nagkaroon ng representation ng mga Pilipino sa Spanish court. So around that time, Rizal was also preoccupied with the troubles of hacienderos in Calamba, whose situation he already brought before the courts of Spain. For Rizal, the lack of Philippine representation in the Spanish Cortes and the denial of justice to the appeal of Filipinos over agrarian problems had proven the improbability of a campaign for Filipino rights. Sabi ng ibang historians, nagkaroon daw, after bumitaw ni Haina sa posisyon sa La Solidaridad, nagkaroon ng botohan. At sinabi na nanalo si Jose Rizal sa botohan or may nagsabi na nanalo si Jose Rizal sa botohan, meron naman nagsabi na si Jose Rizal ay napagkaisahan na wag iboto kasi nga threatened sila kay Rizal kasi gusto niya sa Rizal ay gumaya sa kanya yung mga kasamahan niya sa Madrid na nauubos lamang ang oras nila sa pambababae at pag-iinom ng alak. Ayaw ni Rizal ng ganun. So, yung iba na threaten kay Jose Rizal, kung kaya, pinagkaisahan na wag nilang iboto si Jose Rizal. So, medyo magkaibang kwento yun. Pero ang tuluyan nito, umuwi si Rizal sa Pilipinas kasi nga, pinanindigan niya ang paniniwala niya na ang battlefield ay nasa Pilipinas at wala sa Spain. So, after that, pagka-uwi niya, nag-focus na lang siya sa troubles na kinakaharap ng mga farmers sa Calamba kasi isa din ang pamilya niya sa pinaka-apektado doon sa nangyaring encomienda. So, yan. So, in a letter to Blumentritt in 1887, Rizal already hinted at such sentiments, saying, "The peaceful struggle must remain a dream, for Spain will never learn from her earlier colonies in South America. But in the present circumstances, we want no separation from Spain. All we demand is more care, better instruction, better officials, one or two representations, and more security for ourselves and our property. Spain can still win the Philippines for herself forever, if only Spain were more reasonable." The situation became more complicated for Rizal after his mother and sister were arrested in Manila. So after several days of imprisonment, they were asked to go back to the courts in the province on foot before they were finally released. In a letter sent in 1891, Rizal wrote, if our countrymen hope in us here in Europe, they are certainly mistaken. The field of battle is the Philippines. There is where we should be." So, dun sa letter ni Jose Rizal kay Blumentritt, nawawala na siya ng pag-asa. In-explain niya kay Blumentritt na hindi naman niya gustong makawala sa kamay ng Spain. Pero ang gusto lamang niya ay mas pakinggan ang Pilipinas, mas pakinggan ang mga Pilipino, mas bigyan ng importansya at huwag pahirapan. Yun lang yung gusto ni Jose Rizal, pero hindi niya gustong mawala tayo sa kamay ng Espanyol. Ang gusto lang niya ay maalagaan tayo ng mabuti at mabigyan ng ng karapatan ang mga tao para magpahayag at magsalita ng malaya. 'Di ba? Yun din yung reforma nila, or yun din yung hinihinging reforma ng La Solidaridad eh. Hindi naman nila hinihingi na pakawalan ng Pilipinas. Hinihingi lang nila na maging pantay-pantay ang mga Pilipino at ang mga Espanyol. So Rizal set the course for his return to Manila after the publication of his second novel, El Filibusterismo. So all copies of the novel were shipped to the Philippines. Upon his arrival, he established a new organization, the La Liga Filipina, a secret society that embodied the ideas Rizal presented in El Filibusterismo. So, hindi natigil yung kagustuhan ni Rizal na maglingkod or na paglingkuran na ipaglaban ang reforma para sa mga Pilipino. So, after niyang tumiwalag sa La Solidaridad, di ba tumigil na siya ng pagsulat doon? Pag uwi niya sa Pilipinas, nagbuo ulit siya ng panibagong pahayagan na sa tingin niya ay makakapag-express ng 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 kagustuhan ng mga Pilipino para sa reforma. So this included the calls for the provision of mutual protection, defense against all injustices, and promotion of instruction and education among Filipinos. So gusto talaga ni Jose Rizal ay magkaroon ng mga Pilipino ng karapatan sa edukasyon. Gusto niyang maging matuto at matalino ang mga Pilipino, pero ang mga Espanyol ay nanatiling bingi sa kung ano man ang ipinapahayag ng La Solidaridad at ng La Liga Filipina. For now, we're going to proceed to the last section, which is the El Filibusterismo. So to counter Noli Me Tangere's hopeful and romantic atmosphere, Rizal followed it up with El Filibusterismo. Rizal started writing El Fili in 1888 and finished it in 1889. But just like the fate of Noli Me Tangere, Rizal also had difficulties in the publication of El Filibusterismo due to the expensive printing cost. So, si Rizal ay napilitan pumunta sa Ghent, Belgium, para makakita siya ng cheaper ways of printing the book, but still, he found it too costly. So, fortunately, his friend Valentin Ventura offered him financial assistance, which led to the novel's publication of September 1891. So, katulad din ng faith ng Noli Me Tangere, meron ding shoulder ng expenses para sa publishing ng El Filibusterismo. He used the first novel, the Noli Me Tangere, to expose to the Filipinos the abusive ways of the Spanish authorities and friars. So through the characters and plot of the novel, Rizal was able to bring to light the corruption of the Spaniards. And through the different characters in the novel, Rizal provided insights regarding the condition of Philippine society under the Spanish Colonial Rule. It was also through the experience of these characters that Rizal was able to direct readers into recognizing the ills that plague the country. So yun nga, kaya na-insulto ang mga Spanish friars kasi nga ang laman ng Noli Me Tangere ay patungkol or nagre-reflect sa nangyayari noon. 'Di ba? Parang ang mga characters pa nga at ang plot at ang setting ay halos yun din eh. May iniiba lang ni Jose Rizal ng konti para maging dramatic yung novel, yung nobela na iyon. So meanwhile, in El Filibusterismo, Rizal warned Spain that its corrupt and self-seeking colonial government would only lead to disaster. So dito, mas matindi yung reflection ni Jose Rizal, di ba? So such as what happened to Cabezang Tales and Basilio in the novel. So the novel focuses on the discontent of the youth led by Basilio with the condition of the Philippine society. So yung kay Cabezang Tales, nagpasimuno ng himagsikan, and that's one of the disasters that Rizal is talking about. Himagsikan na kikitil sa buhay ng maraming tao at ng maraming Pilipino ng panahon na iyon. So si Basilio naman ay isang, ang nire-represent naman ni Basilio sa storyng ito ay isang kabataan na naghahanap ng social change, siya isang catalyst of change na kung saan mulat siya sa mga nangyayari sa Pilipinas, sa kung anong nangyayari sa society noong araw na yun, nung panahon na iyon. Yan, so in Noli Me Tangere, he lost his brother Crispin and mother Sisa. And in El Filibusterismo, he once again lost two very important individuals in his life. So that's Julie and Capitan Tiago. So what you see in the photo is actually the picture of Noli Me Tangere the opera. No, meron na ding El Filibusterismo the opera, pero wala akong makitang video, so I can't make you watch it. So today, the two novels remain popular. The original manuscript of Noli Me Tangere was acquired by the Philippine government in 1911 for 32,000 pesos from Soledad Rizal de Quintero, and the original manuscript of El Filibusterismo was sold by Valentin Ventura to the Philippine government. So ibig sabihin, yung nasa Philippine government ay galing mismo kay Valentin Ventura na galing mismo kay Jose Rizal, in 1928 for 10,000 pesos. So both were kept in Manila City Hall for safekeeping. However, the Liberation Battle of 1945 destroyed almost everything in Manila, and the looting and pilferage of historical documents became rampant because of their outstanding monetary value. So after nun, nauso yung pagnanakaw ng mga documents, mga historical document kasi nga mahal ang bentahan, malaking pera ang makukuha mo sa ganyan. So in 1946, most of the documents were returned. So most of the documents or halos lahat ng nawalang documents ay naibalik naman sa National Library under a no publicity, no question policy arrangement. Through this, the invaluable works of Rizal were safely kept by the National Library in the rare books and manuscript section. So in 1961, as the government prepared for the centennial celebration of Rizal's birth anniversary, the original works of Rizal including Noli Me Tangere, El Filibusterismo, and Mi Ultimo Adios were included in the exhibit as part of the international conference organized by the Jose Rizal National Centennial Commission. Pero nung December 8, 1961, yung tatlong works na iyon ni Jose Rizal ay nanakaw doon sa glass encased locked display counter. Pero upon negotiation, they were returned pa rin sa National Library on February 9, 1962. So a few years ago, the original copies of the Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo in the possession of the National Library were reported to be decaying. Nasa threat na naman tayo ng pagkawala ng mga historical books or novels ni Rizal. But fortunately, the German government offered a conservation project in 2011 just in time for the 150th birth anniversary of Jose Rizal to restore the books itself, para mas maalagaan, para mas abutan pa ng mas maraming henerasyon. So dahil sa mga librong ito ni Jose Rizal, masasabi natin na si Jose Rizal ay isang romantikong tao. Isang romantikong tao dahil si Jose Rizal ay may malaking pag-ibig para sa bansa. Binigay niya ang kanyang puso at damdamin para lang sa pag-ibig niya sa Pilipinas. At yung pagkamatay ni Jose Rizal at itong nangyari noong panahon na iyon ay challenge para sa mga kabataan ngayon, para sa ating mga kabataan ngayon, kung paano natin magagawang kapakinabang or paano natin magagawang worthy yung mga buhay na ibinuwis noong panahon ng Espanyol at paano natin magiging kapakipakinabang sa panahon ngayon. Masasabi ba natin ang naiambag natin sa bayan ngayon ay sapat na para masabing deserving tayo sa kalayaan, deserving tayo sa buhay na binuwis ng ating mga kababayan? Deserving ba tayo sa mga dugong dumanak noong panahon ng Espanyol? Those are the questions in my mind na mahirap sagutin. No? Hindi natin alam, but hopefully we are still doing our best to be the best versions of ourselves para makatulong sa bayan, para makapag-offer ng kung ano mang meron tayo para sa bayan. Lagit-lagi para sa bayan. So there, that's the discussion for week 5. Hopefully you're able to understand what to discuss. So see you in the next lesson. Bye!